The Chicago Cubbies are the 2016 World Series champions. There is a lot, and I mean a lot, to talk about. We don't talk too much baseball on TYT Sports, though those who have been following TYT Sports for at least my time here, even Ricky Strom's time here, who, congrats Rick, Cubbies won the World Series. He is from Chicago. He was at Wrigleyville. Those who have been following know that baseball is my favorite sport. Those who have been following know that I try to talk a lot of it on Facebook Live and other outlets. I tweet about it all the time, all these things. Game 7 of the World Series this year was easily, and without a doubt, and just about 20 hours removed from the first pitch of it, the best baseball game I have ever seen in my life. Now, I've only been alive for 25 years. I only remember baseball for about 21 of them. It's still a big enough sample size to tell you that through the years, the Yankees murderers row that unfortunately as a Mets fan I had to watch growing up, the Red Sox in 2004, again, a major curse-breaking year, one that you can call a great comeback through those 4 games, but they swept the World Series. So if we're going to talk about one of the best all-around World Series, this had every storyline you could ask for, but if you're going to talk about the best baseball game I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime, I don't think you can top this one. Now, one of the Toronto Blue Jays fans was tweeting at me saying, like, Joe Carter's walk-off home run. That's awesome. That was the fairest point I heard back to that. But as for the game, if you don't know what happened or you didn't watch it start to finish, first I'm going to go through a little bit of a recap of what happened and give you my thoughts as to Joe Maddon's somewhat comedic, ballsy, gutsy, terrible, questionable, great managing decisions. This is who Joe Maddon is. Joe Maddon tinkered, he tailored, he messed around with lineups in Tampa Bay. He got them to the World Series. And in that World Series, he did the same thing, making gutsy, questionable managerial decisions, and it didn't work. Well, he didn't abandon that strategy because deep down, Joe Maddon knew some of these gambles will pay off. For every bad decision that Joe Maddon made in Game 7, he did have some other decisions in the long term from way long ago, I shouldn't say way long ago, but like a week and a half ago, that had a major impact on the Cubs winning this game. So here's the game itself. Dexter Fowler steps up to the plate after seeing Corey Kluber in the top of the first inning after, I believe, 4 pitches. After seeing Kluber for the 3rd time in about 8-9 days, he hit a homer to dead center field. Kluber is not Madison Bumgarner. I didn't think Kluber was going to be Madison Bumgarner, and what this goes to show you is that what Madison Bumgarner did against the Royals 2 years ago in the World Series was, hands down, the most remarkable pitching I've ever seen in my life. Because while Kluber wasn't hittable throughout this World Series and throughout the playoffs for the most part, and while even Andrew Miller for most of the time was unhittable, when you start to see these guys more and more and more, it becomes that much easier to get ahead of them. They started attacking early in the count, and it resulted in some long balls, and it resulted in hard hit ball after hard hit ball. After that first inning, I'm Terry Francona. I am sweating with Kluber on the mound just because every ball that came off the bat was smacked at 200 miles an hour to the right field or left field or sometimes center field. Hard hit balls is a big sabermetric that's used, and it was working in favor of the Cubbies to start the game. All right, Kyle Hendricks comes in bottom of the first and cruises through for the most part, through those 5 innings. The big questionable change then came. Let's put in Jon Lester. Let's take out Kyle Hendricks after a 3-2 count that resulted in a walk in the world's smallest strike zone. Kyle Hendricks got shafted there. He did. And then he got frustrated. And the reason I think Joe Maddon took Kyle Hendricks out of the game was because he didn't want a frustrated Kyle Hendricks to surrender anything with runners on base. Even though it went against what Joe Maddon said before the game that Jon Lester would not be coming into a dirty inning. Dirty inning meaning somebody's on base. It's exactly what happened. Then Jon Lester's command's a little off. Jon Lester doesn't come in for relief appearances that much. Jon Lester's ball smacks off the mask of David Ross, and a wild pitch results in 2 runs scored, and all of a sudden, it's 5-3. And the Indians, on the other hand, showed resilience, constant resilience, smart base running, and some tremendous fielding throughout that game. I need to backtrack for just a second because the Cleveland Indians, that team, they weren't supposed to beat the Red Sox. They were not favored to beat the Red Sox. They beat the Red Sox. They were not favored to beat the Blue Jays. They beat the Blue Jays. And they were not favored to beat the Cubbies. And they almost did. So again, hats off to that Indians team. It's not even like one of those situations where you go in and say, screw the Indians, they didn't deserve it. No, man, they played their fucking heart out. And when you watch it and what happened throughout the at least games 5, 6, and 7, yes, let the memes roll. You're in your right. Draymond Green, man, 3-1 sucks. Check the tweet. LeBron James, pumped up after we get to Rajai Davis's home run, which we'll get to in just a second. Let the memes roll. Cleveland blew a 3-1 lead. That doesn't let off the fact that the Warriors did it too. So everybody right now is blowing a 3-1 lead. Give some credit where credit's due. The Cavs came back. The Cubbies came back. It's a better storyline. It's the more fair storyline when you say the Cubs came back and won in Game 7. The Cavaliers came back and won in Game 7. That's the better storyline. That's why we love sports. We all want Game 7s. Nobody wants Game 5 unless you are a hometown fan of the Warriors, the Cavs, the Indians, or the Cubbies in those respective situations. Moving forward, Lester comes in, mentioned that before. Lester looked, questionable. Didn't love what I saw from him. This is a guy who, remember, has a pitch count where in his bullpen, when he's warming up in a situation where he never warms up for these relief appearances, has like an exact amount of pitches he has to throw. And then he comes in. If he throws one more, one less, like the sky opens up, the heavens rain down, and that actually literally happened, and everyone falls into the earth. Seriously, that's almost what happened, literally. We move on to the top of the 6th. Andrew Miller's in. He's been nothing but fantastic throughout most of these playoffs. A major reason they got out of the ALDS, ALCS, Andrew Miller on that bullpen. The very, very good Indians bullpen. David Ross, who just let a ball smack off his mask and let up 2 runs. Homers to center. 38 years old David Ross, in his last ever baseball game, goes out a champion and hits a home run in the World Series in Game 7. Storylines, headlines, they're all over the place. They're beautiful. The Cubbies are up 6-3, and then they can start counting their outs. In the bottom of the 7th, they are 9 outs away from winning the World Series. The Cubs fans I was with at the bar, friends that were in Chicago, were not breathing. They could not hold it together. The Indians fans are looking at this going, we can come back. We can do what the Royals have done in the past. We can do that too. We can be that team. Well, championship teams are made up of championship caliber moments and players that step up when they are asked. Unsung heroes, usually not the superstar in every situation. In this case, Rajai Davis. After Ramirez reached on an infield single to second, Chapman comes in to relieve Lester. Chapman had nothing left in the tank. He was still throwing 102 miles an hour at times, 103, but his command was errant. And when he switched over to his slider, oh man, was he hanging pitches. And we'll get to the bottom of the 9th in a second, because until that moment, Rajai Davis smacked one 364 feet, screaming down the left field line. Reached, and it went out. And all of a sudden, it's a 6-6 ball game, which set up undoubtedly the best single case scenario that any World Series Game 7, any Game 7 in sports could ask for. From that moment on, once Davis tied that game, there was only 2 outcomes. And both those outcomes were great, because all of the wind was sucked out of the Windy City. However, if they came back, it's putting a 108-year-old curse behind them. There's no more Billy Goats, any of that thing. If they win that game, which they went on to do, it's a great story for the city of Chicago. If the Indians win, the only way to do it is to do it as every little kid who loves baseball does. Bottom of the 9th, 2 outs, runner on, and you walk off. Almost happened for Kipnis. We're talking millimeters away from walking off in the World Series in the bottom of the 9th of a tie ball game with 1 out. Kipnis strikes out in that at-bat. It was close. Lindor flies out to right. We're going to extra innings. But wait. Rain delay. 17-minute rain delay. And this is where I get to spend a couple seconds backing up Jason Heyward. Jason Heyward signed for far too much money. And too many people, and I mean too many people, look at the bottom line numbers of Jason Heyward and they sit there and go, what a complete waste of cash. We don't need him. Oh, yes, you do. Oh, yes, you did. And the proof in that lied in a few specific areas. For one, this is a Gold Glove outfielder. This is somebody who's extremely smart on the base paths and does more for the game than just with the bat. There's a reason Joe Maddon kept him in the lineup. He saved runs in Game 6 by making some very difficult catches, and he doesn't make mistakes. He climbs the wall a little bit too early in earlier games in the World Series and makes great catches. Those kind of moments. The anti-Bartman, it was in Game 5, the opposite of Bartman. Jason Heyward called the players' meeting. And during that rain delay, he took that leadership role in that situation. You know that because both Kris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, immediately after winning the World Series, it was the first thing they said during the interview with Ken Rosenthal and Tom Verducci. So yes, if a $184 million contract or whatever it was in that ballpark meant that you batted sub 100 in the World Series, but one moment like that brings your team together and then you find a way to grab 2 runs in the top of the 10th, which results in you winning the World Series, which results in Kris Bryant smiling before he even picked up the ball, slipping and throwing it to Rizzo to get the final out and sending Chicago into bedlam, then yes, Jason Heyward was worth all of that money. He can have a bounce back year from the plate. Baseball doesn't start and end with the bat. There is too much more that goes into it. So, a couple points before we wrap up this very lengthy clip on baseball, because we don't get to do one for a long time. Joe Maddon is a questionable manager. He makes questionable decisions, but his players love him. He was beloved on the Rays, and he's going to be beloved in Chicago for the rest of his life, so much so that people wear his jersey. There's a guy who had a number 70 Joe Maddon jersey at the bar. I was pretty blown away. However, yes, putting Chapman in, asking Chapman to throw 100 pitches in like 3 days, not a good call. However, in the end, not terrible. Javi Baez's bunt, very bad call in the moment, if and only if he strikes out like he did. If Baez gets that bunt down and they go into the top of the 9th and they're up 7-6, nobody's saying it's a bad call. It's the Sean Payton syndrome, the Sean Payton example. Sean Payton calls for an onside kick in the Super Bowl, right to start off the second half. If he doesn't get it, what an idiot! Oh, he's an idiot. But if he gets it, it's the most ballsy, gutsy genius. What a call by Sean Payton. I do this all the time. There's 2 sides to that. There's 2 sides to Joe Maddon. I will always back up Joe Maddon because I think he deserves this World Series too. Joe Maddon's also the guy that wanted Kyle Schwarber in. And for all those people who are saying, which they probably should, the Cubs should have had home field advantage. They were the better team during the regular season. They had the more wins. You deserve home field advantage in the World Series if you have more wins than the team you are facing. However, Kyle Schwarber does not play baseball in Game 7 of the World Series because if it was in Chicago, he wouldn't be able to go. I know more than that changes, but the DH role allowed Schwarber to play. It was a slight advantage to the Cubbies to have Schwarber back in there. Joe Maddon was the one who said Schwarber should be on the plane, get there after not playing all regular season, and was being called on in the biggest moment of his career at a very young, very, very young age, who hasn't played all season long, and he hit the bat. He swung the bat very well. That's impressive. Joe Maddon had 3 catchers on the roster. Nobody does this. 3 catchers on the roster, all of which were instrumental in winning that game. I don't want to sell the Indians short. I don't want to sell the Tribe short. I don't want to sell the Cleveland, any of them short. They played a phenomenal game and really clawed back and really didn't say no and did not roll over and did not go down 10-1 when they could have. It was as good of a baseball game as you can get. I couldn't be happier for the city of Chicago. They are great fans there in Wrigleyville. I'm happy that they're singing Go Cubs Go for the next who knows. What I don't want to see is now all the sympathy's gone for Chicago. That team could very much do what the Red Sox did. That team could very much go and win 2 more World Series in the next 9 years, like the Red Sox did 3 and 10. Chicago can do that too. They are built for the future. The difference between that Chicago team and the ones in the past is the other teams just weren't that good. This team was. It's a very simple bottom line answer. That team top to bottom was the best in baseball all season long. The team top to bottom was the best team in the playoffs. And as we were proven throughout that, that's what makes it such a great game. It's what made it such a great Game 7. I will leave you with this. I got the American League side wrong. However, there was 2 statements I made in my baseball predictions in the very, very beginning when we had the one baseball clip. I said there was 0% chance that the Blue Jays and the Rangers could win the World Series. Correct. Yes. I know statistically they had more than a 0% chance because one of them had to play in the ALCS, and I did not think the Blue Jays would do it. Well, I was wrong about that. However, they did not get to the World Series because they were not built to make it to the World Series. However, the second side of that prediction was whoever comes out of the National League will win the World Series. That was true again. That is 3 straight years, save for wanting the Mets to win. 3 straight years in which I can take some credit for predicting the World Series. I know the Cubbies were the chalk. It's not the easy, but it wasn't the tough prediction. However, giving myself a little bit of credit where credit is due. That is it. Cubs clip done. World Series done. Go Cubs go. Totally proud of that. Happy for them. Make sure to subscribe, like, favorite, everything to the channel. Come over to my Twitter if you want to talk about baseball. Go over to facebook.com/TYT Sports if you want to talk baseball. Please watch this clip. More people watch it, the more we can talk about baseball on TYT Sports. We'll see you next time.